Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's fireside chat. I'm super excited to have you all here. We have folks from India joining us. We have folks from the Middle East and Africa. I also saw a few registrations from UK and US. It's a bit of off time for US as a market because it's quite early for them. But this session is being recorded, and we'll be sharing the recording with all of you who have registered, and also on our social media handles as well. Right? So today we're going to deep dive into this fascinating world of accounting, offshoring, and outsourcing. And this space has been gaining a lot of momentum of late across the globe. This session specifically is going to be with our very own expert in this field, global accounting, offshoring, and outsourcing. And he's going to bring you insights of practical, real world challenges and opportunities out there and how accounting firms can tap onto it. The session is tailored for the accounting fraternity. So you may be a chartered accountant, a bookkeeper, a CPA, if you will, across the globe, specifically who are looking to scale their operations and expand their services. Through the global talent tool out there, right? And also leverage on this opportunity of offshoring and outsourcing. Before I start, there are a bit of housekeeping rules out here. This session is currently live streamed. Some of you will be able to see it on LinkedIn. Some of you will be able to see it on YouTube as a platform. And also people who have logged on to this webinar platform who have registered. Yes, the session is being recorded as well. And we will be sharing the recording with you via email and also on our social media handles. While we continue to chat with Arun, feel free to share your questions on the chat window of the platform that you see, be it YouTube, LinkedIn, or the webinar platform. We'll be answering it along the way, and also we'll be having an open Q&A session at the end of this particular fireside chat. Very quick intro about me. I'm Cynthia, and I've had the privilege of working very closely with accounting professionals across the globe as part of my current role with Zoho, as part of the Zoho finance team. And today I'm joined by Arun Mehra. He's a chartered accountant with over 23 years of experience. And Arun's journey has taken him from PwC in London to senior roles at Credit Suisse and Bank of America before founding Samara Chartered Accountants in 2002. And it's not just Arun's experience that stands out, right? It is also about how Samara is a testament to how they have leveraged on this offshoring and outsourcing opportunity. And today he's going to take real life examples of Samara and give you use cases on how he achieved this. In fact, Arun is going to be driving the Samara Global Accounting Summit that's happening next month in Delhi, December 14th and 15th. I'll be sharing more details about that later part of the slides as well. So yes, Arun, we're all ears. We definitely want to hear from you about your experience, about your advices that you want to give to aspiring firms. So before I deep dive into some actionable questions, why don't we start off with your journey in building Samara Chartered Accountants?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Now I'm sitting here at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. I'm sitting in Toronto at the moment, having attended Accountex Toronto or Accountex Canada here, which is a large accounting event here in the Canadian market. So if I'm a bit bleary-eyed, I apologize well in advance. But to answer your question, Cynthia, how did I start my journey? Well, it started many years ago. So as you mentioned earlier, I started, I'd been working in investment banking, or I trained with PwC London as a chartered accountant, went into investment banking, but I realized it wasn't for me. So I decided I'm going to start up my own firm. And at the time, I'd just got married to my wife, Smitha, who was a dentist. And I decided, well, maybe I could run a firm helping dentists and other people in the healthcare professionals. And that's how Samara started up all those years ago. I got my first client, slowly building, getting more and more clients over the years. And over that time, I started to outsource to various firms in India, some more successfully than others. And it was a good experience, okay, a pretty good experience. But what I found is sometimes there were challenges, there were communication issues, all these various issues that arose. So a few years ago, I decided, well, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to set up my own offshoring facility based in India and operate that to support my accounting firm. And now we're at the stage where we're supporting other accounting firms and also advising other offshoring firms. So it's been a really, really exciting journey. It hasn't always been easy. Okay, there have been many challenges along the way, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world. I love what I do.
Lovely, Arun. While we both know, right, I know personally about your inspiring story in Samara, and we've discussed about your use cases, but I think it's time for us to share that with the accounting professionals here. We definitely know that there is a market out there for global outsourcing, specifically in the accounting space. We saw some numbers out there, right, about some globally, it's a CAGR of about 9.3%, which is expected to grow right from 2024 to 2030.
Yeah.
And while you started Samara Chartered Accountants, what was the motivation for you to venture into this space? Because now we are talking about this as a hot topic. There are forums which are talking about this particular trend. We see the opportunity out there in the market, yes, but when you started out there, I'm not sure how big of a buzz this was, but there must have been some place where you spotted that this is an opportunity, right? And then you ventured into this. So
Absolutely. So I think having built up my own firm based in the UK, what we were finding the challenge was finding team members. Okay. And I think less people have been entering the workspace in the accounting space in the UK, US, Canada over the last few years. People are retiring and less people are coming into this accounting space. So that was a pain point. Okay. And I decided, well, that pain point's there, and I was tolerating it. And I was using some offshoring firms, but I thought, well, I've had some really good experience. Met some really good people in India over the years. And I thought, well, I think the inspiration for this was the actual people that I'd met in the journey along the way. And then I investigated it further, started talking to more Indian CAs, Indian accountants. And I thought, well, there's a vast, vast pool of talented people sitting in India. And I thought, well, they are the solution to this problem. Okay. Is it going to be easy to solve? No, of course it wouldn't be. There's cultural issues, various issues, which we'll talk about later. But I think it was the talent pool sitting in India was the real inspiration for me to do this. And having Indian origin, and even though I was born and brought up in the UK, as a child, I'd be going back and forth to India many years, or throughout my whole life. And I remember my late father always saying to me that India will be the superpower one day. And I think it didn't happen at my time, but I can see now. You can see the vast pool of talent sitting there, waiting, keen, hungry. That is the true inspiration, and it's an exciting time now to be in the offshoring space.
That brings a bright smile on my face if you see when you keep mentioning about India, the superpower and the talent and all of that. But today, folks, we are covering certain markets. Arun and I would be happy to do it for across markets as a series as well. Given the time that we only have 45 minutes,
Sure.
we're covering this topic at a very high level, right? We're talking about India, some parts of Middle East and Africa, and how offshoring is coming up in APAC as well. But if you
Absolutely.
want us to, particularly deep dive into a specific market, drop us a note on the chat, and Arun will be happy to do that. I can schedule series of this and deep dive into specific markets. In fact, sorry, Arun, I forgot to mention, although he's based out of the UK, he's on a business travel, and he's attending Accountex Canada, one of the largest accounting shows in Canada, and it's I think 4:30 in the morning right now for him. So thank you for being so passionate about this topic and joining us today, Arun.
No problem at all.
Okay. Arun, so we spoke about opportunities earlier also, right? Which is, be it in India or in APAC, the CAGR is growing, right? In terms of 9% or 10% growth rate that we are seeing in terms of the outsourcing market out there. So we definitely know there is an opportunity. From a market landscape, there is an opportunity. But given your experience into this, why don't we get into some actionable use cases? If you can break down some of these biggest opportunities for our chartered accountants who have joined us today, what are some of those? And would you like to highlight some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was talking to many prospects yesterday and the day before in Canada, and it's a common theme I'm seeing is that people are looking for the foundations of accounting done right firstly. So it could be things like the bookkeeping, okay, using software like Zoho to do the bookkeeping. But then also they want people to do statutory accounts. There's controller work that can be done as well. So people are looking for, well, I can't find a controller sitting here in Canada. Can someone overseas do this all for me? So the opportunities are vast. In addition, tax, getting tax returns done, whatever market, whether it's the US, the Canadian, the UK, tax returns. So there's it's just vast, I think, and that's perhaps a good thing, but at the same time, it's difficult to narrow down where do I actually put my efforts into as well at the same time. Because once there's such a big pool, like, well, me as a CA sitting in India or somewhere, where do I actually focus upon? So I think it's important to think about what skill set you may have, what interests you, choose potentially a particular industry that you may have some experience or knowledge or interest in, and then go deeper into that sector. Because when you try to be everything to everyone, no one really gets you and no one's really that interested. But if you narrow down, okay, into a particular domain, people then start seeing, okay, you're the expert in that space, providing offshoring services. So there are many, many opportunities, and I think it's just being quite specific. Be more specific, then that will help you get the clients that you're looking for.
Spot on, Arun. When you spoke about industries, that definitely rings a bell, because I had the privilege of attending some of these accounting events, and also based on our experience in Zoho, right? There are certain accounting firms who are very familiar with SaaS as an industry,
Sure.
while certain chartered accountants are very familiar with retail or real estate or manufacturing as different verticals. So I think gone are the days where we look at, holistically, people try to touch upon different industries, but now they're very niche. There are specific chartered accountants for niche industries per se, right? And they would like to focus on that. So definitely, yeah.
I think just to add to that, like I started off my niche in very much the dental and healthcare space in the UK. And interestingly, just yesterday, I was having conversations with people saying, well, since you're a specialist in this sector in dental, can you do the same thing in Canada, okay, for me, okay? Because there is lots of overlap. We understand the terminology. My team understand. We've trained them to a certain standard that the guys in India understand. Obviously, there'll be nuances and differences, but I think having that specialist niche. So if you're operating a firm based out of India and you're working in a particular domain, expand on that, research the market, say in the UK, the US, or Canada, or wherever you want to go to, and in that particular domain, and get deep into it, and then start thinking, okay, who are the players, who can I network with, and then slowly but surely you should get some traction.
Lovely, Arun. Exactly on this as a follow-up question, we're talking about two segments here, right? Two segments of firms. One is, first segment is accounting firms in India, Asia Pacific belt, and also Middle East and Africa, where they're trying to go global, right? Trying to service clients based out of US, Canada, and UK. They can be firms or they can be businesses directly as well.
Correct.
The second segment that we're talking about are accounting firms in the US, UK, and Canada markets, where they're trying to expand their clientele, but offer specialized services, but also try to leverage on this offshoring office. For example, you have your offshoring office in India, right? So we're talking about two segments. So while we've addressed the first segment and their opportunities, I'm sure your business expanded quite really well after you chose to offshore elsewhere, and you would have expanded your clientele. So what about the opportunities for the second segment, Arun?
So the second segment, so the firms sitting in the UK or the US, I think initially there was a little hesitance over the years, but now we're actually working with firms wanting to set up their own operations themselves in places like India. Okay, now in order to do that, they obviously need to have for instance, set up an Indian company. If they did that, they need a local director, and that local director could be an Indian CA, for instance. So there are definitely opportunities out there, and then that local Indian CA can help with office space, infrastructure, IT, training of the team, HR, that type of thing. So I think increasingly, especially the medium to larger size firms are thinking, well, while I can offshore and provide piecemeal work, the larger players are thinking, you know what, actually, I want to actually set up my own kind of global capability center, I guess, based out in India or another place to deliver it. And therefore, I'll be employing people in India, but I'll also perhaps need business partners in India to actually make it work properly.
Lovely to hear this, Arun. And when we talk about opportunities, there is this myth that not just accounting, but when anybody talks about outsourcing in itself, it's because of cost effectiveness, about reducing costs. But I wouldn't want to believe that's the only reason, right? I'm sure the opportunities out there and the reasons people want to outsource are much more. Do you want to highlight on those?
I think maybe in the past, maybe 20 years ago, it may have been a thought that it's cost. It's certainly not cost now. Okay. what people are trying to do, say, based in the UK, like in my firm, we don't want the cheapest, okay? We want the best, okay? And therefore, we want the right people to do the work. So, and similarly to other accounting firms, they want their jobs done, okay, to a high standard. So I think where I've seen the mistakes made, and I'll probably talk later, but sometimes we see many Indian firms lowballing, providing very cheap prices, and therefore the impact of that means they provide a poor service, and therefore the accountancy firms in the West think, well, offshoring didn't work because it just wasn't very good. But what they were seeking for is manpower that are talented, that are good, who are well-skilled, who are trained. And that's what they're ultimately seeking for. If there's a cost saving, yeah, great, okay. But more importantly, they want delivery. And if you're going to say you're going to do it by tomorrow and then you don't do it by tomorrow, that's when things get upset. And I know culturally in India, people never like to say no, okay. But these are the things that we have to try and bridge, that cultural gaps between places like the UK and Canada and places like India.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we were able to break the barriers, especially the prejudice that we were talking about, right? That it's not just about the cost, it's about leveraging talent out there, highly skilled workforce out there, and delivering quality of scale, right? When it comes to customer service. So definitely there is opportunity on both sides that we can see. So while there are opportunities, wherever there is opportunity, there is also a scope to improve, right?
Yep.
So while the opportunities are vast, where do you think there are challenges? For example, if I may quote, the first segment who are there in this side of the world might have to step up in terms of, and then get to know about data privacy laws, maybe UK and EU accounting standards, or for that instance, the sales tax rules in Americas, etc. People on the other side of the world, if they want to offshore here, will have to get into or deal with cultural barriers, time zone differences, right? Because it's going to be a different time zone altogether. You need to manage, and at the same time, ensure that they are able to deliver great customer service, and also the pain points of the customers to be addressed. So these are some of the things that I can think of. But having already done this in your Samara global, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that today's chartered accountants face when they want to go global? And that can be on both sides. Arun, if you can address both the sides.
Absolutely. I think that the technical side of things is something that can be addressed pretty quickly. I don't think they are the biggest challenges. I think with the evolving technologies that we're seeing in the accounting space across the world, with AI, these types of things, I think these technical challenges will not be eliminated, but they'll be reduced. So I don't think that's the major issue. I think that the biggest issue are the cultural and communication issues. And therefore, as I mentioned earlier, in India, people don't like to say no. And they'll say, yes, I can do the job for tomorrow. And when then they don't deliver by tomorrow, the client sitting in Canada or the UK is upset. Okay, well, you said you'll do it by tomorrow. So it's these little things that we see as little, but these are the big things that matter, and understanding each other. So I think it's important that we bridge the gap. So how do we go about doing that? So I just look at my own example. In my own team, I have team members from the UK going out to India, meeting with the team, talking to them, understanding the issues, okay? And similarly, vice versa. As an example, we have very much an open policy of conversation online. One of the things we try to do with all our India team is that we want them to directly speak to clients. Okay, they're not going to be hidden behind a UK team member or anything like that. We want them to be speaking to the clients directly. Why? Because it increases their confidence. If it increases their confidence, it increases trust. If it increases trust, it improves the relationship. And therefore, once you have a relationship, therefore, you've got a happier client. So when things do not go right, because things always don't go right all the time, you can have a grown-up conversation between two parties and resolve any issues that are there. So I think where I've seen firms do it wrong, they see it as very transactional. Okay, they see offshoring as very transactional. I'm going to send a piece of work to India, get them to do it, pay a fee, and be done with it. That is completely the wrong way of approaching this. Offshoring has to be an extension of a team. Okay, so it's a global team. You're working together. You're communicating together. That's the key to this whole success story. If you don't do that, you'll continue to have problems.
Spot on, Arun. I think that's where technology comes in as well, right? Not just pandemic taught us how disparate people can be and at the same time be connected together, right? The whole world was able to connect remotely. And not just that, if you have to deliver excellent client service, then that means you need to have the right tools in place as your partner, right? While you have your offshoring firm, you should also have your accounting solution in place, your back office operation solution in place, right? IT is very, very important.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You beautifully brought about the word trust here, Arun, especially when people are remote and they're based out of different time zones and the client expectation and requirements are different, right? So I would like to follow up on that particular keyword that you used, trust. So especially in this offshoring space, when there are cultural differences, when they are remote, etc., there is a lot of trust that has to be built in. Both sides, accounting firms will have to have a clear value proposition, right, as to how they're going to serve their clients. And of course, it's going to take time for them to build that trust and also establish a process in place. And for any business out there, not just in the accounting space, securing your first client is definitely not an easy task. So connecting the dots here, how did you first secure your first client, and how were you able to connect these dots of building trust with the client, building trust with your offshoring wing, and also being able to deliver your client service there?
Yeah, great question, Cynthia. I think, as you said, trust is at the heart of what we do. Remember, we are dealing with sensitive financial information, okay? And therefore, people have an expectation, or clients have an expectation, that you're going to be looking after that information carefully. But how did I secure my first client? I guess for me, what I've seen, especially I've seen from India, and I get a lot of emails from people cold calling me or cold emailing me, Arun, we can do this for $10, $5 an hour, that type of thing. And that to me is not going to build trust at all. Okay. That's kind of seen as spam. And certainly here in the West, it's like kind of not another email, not another cold call. It's very damaging to an organization if you're sending that type of information out. So the way we try and build trust is to actually, as I said earlier, remember I said earlier, we might specialize in a sector. Well, we're trying to put out quality information out there on various social media platforms, on LinkedIn, YouTube, articles, videos. And we're trying to build content, okay, to educate our client base, okay? We want to educate them. So we're educating them how to do offshoring better, or how to build your global team, all of these types of things. Now, that takes effort, that takes time, okay? And you have to have patience to do this. You're not going to put out a video and you're going to get a client the next day. You won't. People want to see you sweat, I guess, okay, to some extent. Do the hard work, share your knowledge, and slowly but surely they'll start seeing you. Oh, okay, I remember watching that video, or I remember seeing Arun at the Accountax Canada 6 months ago. Oh, maybe I'll talk to him, okay? And there's no guarantee they're going to give me the business, but they might have a chat with me, okay? So my focus, especially how I market my firm, especially in the offshoring side of things, is all about educating my potential client base. So I'm trying to help them grow their firms. So UK firms or US firms or Canadian, I'm helping them grow. So how do I do that? One aspect, I'm teaching them how to do offshoring better. Secondly, I'm trying to teach them how to market their firms better. Thirdly, I'm looking how they can price their firms better, a variety of things. So I think trust, and therefore if I'm educating them, they're saying, well, we're providing all this wonderful, useful information complimentary for free. They'll think, well, if he's giving that for free, he must know his stuff pretty well, okay? And therefore that builds that trust. And at some point when they're ready, not when I'm ready, okay, when they're ready, they'll pick up the phone. And give a call to me and have a chat to me about, okay, or to my team to say, oh, we're now ready to do something. So that's kind of how I got my first client. And that's kind of how we're doing going forward. We're doing a mix of things in terms of work, we're doing a lot of stuff online, okay, but we're doing like a webinar today, or we're doing we come to Accountax Canada for the last few days as an example. So it's a mixed bag, because you have to mix that face-to-face with the stuff that you do online as well.
Perfect, Arun. And I know content is always out there, right? Content strategy can never fail, right? When you organically push out content, be it educative sessions in the form of video or written format, definitely that's going to be consumed, and in maybe it's not going to give you results immediately, but in the long run, that's what is going to stand
Right.
and going to give you results. I completely agree there, Arun. But um, off late, there is a lot of buzz on digital marketing as well, right? Do you, and in Samara as well, and other accounting firms that you know of, do you see people using that as a channel to secure clients? Because the reason I ask you this is accounting firms can be of a vast range, right? Not every firm will have the capacity to spend a certain budget on digital front. So is that a mandatory channel, or like you said, they can start off organically and then they can still, when they expand and scale, they can probably get into digital marketing. But what are your thoughts on that?
When you say digital marketing, what specifics do you
Like
mean?
your paid campaigns,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, for cost, like your
Yeah. Okay.
social media
Yeah, so
or
yeah,
the other
absolutely.
platforms.
Okay, so fine. So for me, we do very little spend on physical digital marketing. We do a little bit of pay per click on Google, okay, but we don't do anything else. Okay, we've tried. We did in the past do a little bit on LinkedIn spend. Okay, but again, it's we're to some extent that's kind of spamming people. Okay, because you can't get the targeting right. So my view is that get the content right. Okay, if you get the content right, people will like it, they'll see you, they'll share it, and before you know it, that's the way to do it. So we put more effort in the content production and the videos, the articles, the written word, the posts that we write, and people start reading it and think, oh, okay, he's someone to talk to, or she's someone to talk to. And I see that as part, and I see that as a major part of digital marketing. Okay, the paid bits, and specifically like if you do Instagram ads or Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, they are certainly something you can do. Of course you can. Okay, and that may speed up the process, but again, that's another, that to get that right takes time, it takes money, and you can easily make a lot of mistakes and burn a lot of cash without actually getting many results that way as well. So you've got to be very careful.
Very true. And I remember you mentioning this in when we met earlier as well, that not everybody can afford the same budget that a mid-sized to a larger sized accounting firm can do, and which means I think the first strategy can definitely be organic. Probably down the slides we'll go through some of the offline events as well as one of the channels. But now I think you weaved a beautiful story, Aaron. You started off with how Samara started, and then we went into the market landscape out there. What is the opportunity there and how it's growing in terms of CAGR? And then wherever there is opportunity, we also wanted to address challenges. So we went into challenges as well. Now, while you've covered most of it, is there any particular advice that you want to give for aspiring chartered accountants and accounting firms out there who want to scale? Any specific advice that you want to give to them?
My honest advice would be, if you've got an interest in this space and you want to be working with global clients, then you need to take that step first. It's that taking that action. Okay, we can all sit on the sidelines and hesitate, and you might have said you tried in the past, it didn't work. Okay, whatever it may be, but as I said to you earlier, I personally think India, and not just India, but other parts of the world, but from the West, a lot of the accounting and back office and accounting work will be shifted to places like India, to places maybe the Philippines, other parts of the world. Okay, it's happening already, but I still, as you said, it's growing at 9.5 to 10% growth, compound annual growth rate over the next 5 to 6 years. We've seen this happen in the IT space, okay, IT services space, and this is happening exactly now in the accounting and finance space. So the key for anyone who's interested in this is to jump on the bandwagon and actually do it. Okay. Now, is it easy? Of course it isn't. Okay. It's not going to be an easy ride. There will be challenges, but my advice would be to take that first step. Now, that first step, you will learn, you will make mistakes, but those mistakes you learn from and you build on, and you'll get better and better ultimately. Okay.
Spot on, Arun. I think it's very important to experiment first to understand what the results are going to be, right? If we're going to hesitate and not jump onto it, then probably it's not going to give us any learnings. So it's okay to experiment, and sometimes, it's okay to fail sometimes. That's when you learn.
That's the key. That's the key to it, Cynthia. Okay, I think And I think certainly for me, I embrace failure. Okay, business is all about embracing failure, and then you learn from that failure, and then you don't make that same mistake again. You'll make another mistake, I'm sure. Okay, and I think sometimes accountants are very kind of risk averse, and they're trained to be risk averse, and they don't want to fail. But the true entrepreneur are the ones who will fail. He'll keep failing, but they'll just keep growing from that and keep learning from that and keep improving from what they've done. Okay, so it could be that your first step might be, okay, I'm going to start posting on LinkedIn. That's that first step. And you might see, oh, I'm getting no one reading my posts, or no one's liking them, or no one's commenting on them. But that shouldn't mean you stop. Okay, that means, okay, you may need to improve it. You might and keep going. Okay, the most successful business people on accountants and accountancy firm owners, the people who start but just keep doing it, keep going, keep going, keep going. They may not be the smartest, but they're the most successful because they just keep going.
Makes sense. Arun, you've been a speaker on most ICAI events. Because we're covering India specifically, I'm talking about that. I've seen you as a speaker in the World Congress of Accountants ICAI event a couple of years, I think in 2022, right? And the topic was also on the similar lines, and there was a lot of buzz in terms of client service and how accounting firms can offshore and all of that. So any specific insights from some of these forums that you have been, for example, Accountix Canada, what do you see out there in Americas as a market, in Canada, in US? And similarly, what is the insight that you're getting from India as a market in terms of this particular space?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing, say in the Western markets, it's that everyone knows they need to outsource. Okay, everyone knows they need to do that, but people have been waiting. Okay, and some people have tried it in the past. For instance, I spoke to someone yesterday. He said, I've outsourced and it was a disaster. And I said, well, why was it a disaster? And he said, because people promised and failed to deliver, and they said the person had these skills, they didn't have these skills, etc., etc. So there's a trust issue already in place. So we have to kind of overcome those existing prejudices that may be there already. Okay, but by educating firms in other parts of the world, such as India, Asia, that type of place, to improve their communication, to improve their knowledge, to deliver on what they promise, is an important thing. So that's kind of where I'm lucky enough, I guess I sit in the middle to some extent. So my view is that if we can support, say, Indian firms and help them understand what they're offering, that's only going to not only help them, but it also help me, I'll be honest with you, okay? Because as they say, a rising tide will lift all the boats, okay? And therefore, the market will get bigger, more trust will be, the greater trust will come from Western firms to say, okay, I've had a good experience, but therefore everyone benefits, really. Because the big issue is there is there's such limited resources in places like Canada, UK, America, okay? And the only solution is offshoring. Now, lots of people are talking about AI and all these types of things. AI still is nowhere near or nowhere ready to do the stuff that people need to do. Now, going forward, AI will take some of the roles out of offshore. I'm pretty sure of it, okay? But you'll still need people to oversee AI. You'll still need people to manage the clients, that type of thing. So that's why when I said earlier, the really important thing is to build that relationship, that stickiness, that trust, because later on, when AI does come in, they'll still want you, they'll still need you, but maybe in a slightly different guise. And everyone's skill sets, all our skill sets will rise because AI is enhancing us, and then we'll just get better and better at what we do.
Thank you, Arun. That's really detailed. I'm sure it's going to help most of our listeners here. So we got into the advice bit. Why don't we move into the forums where they can avail this from, right? Some of the valuable resources to help them get some advice on this particular global offshoring and outsourcing journey. So when you started off, I'm sure the forums were limited, but today the forums are humongous out there, be it offline or online. But is there any particular place where you would say that they can get resources? The chartered accountants and the accounting professionals here can get resources from?
Sure. So, okay, if I kind of, I can certainly point you in certain directions, and some of it's kind of run by myself as well. So I would urge you to follow me on LinkedIn, firstly, okay, because I'm always sharing stuff about offshoring and outsourcing, okay, so by all means, do follow me there, and my YouTube channel. I'm always adding videos there. Kind of, I would also suggest people to go and visit various events. You don't need to go and actually get an exhibition booth or anything like that, which can be quite pricey, okay, which we've done here in Canada, but that you don't necessarily need to do that. It's more important to just go out to places like the next events in London or US or whatever, and go and talk to people, okay? Listen to what their problems are. You can go and listen to events. You can hear what people are complaining about. You can hear their pain points, okay? That's the key, because if you hear people's pain points, you can then find a solution for those pain points. So I would also urge you to consider coming to, we're hosting an event in Delhi, okay, as Cynthia mentioned earlier, on the 14th and 15th of December, which is the Samara Global Summit. And that's all about kind of educating Indian CAs on how to go global. So whether it's the technology, whether it's the marketing, whether it's the communication skills, all of these things we'll be covering to go global. And I think we know there's a demand for this. We know there's people need this help. And if you're serious about making that step to go global, I think the first step is that event we're doing in Delhi is probably a good idea.
Spot on, Arun. I have one last question for you, and that's my favorite question. Slight bit of bias there as well.
Sure.
Folks here might be wondering why we're deep diving more into India. I think that's specifically because we want to take use cases from you and from Samara as well, right? But like I said before, we'll be happy to do this as a series, and we can deep dive into different markets. For example, when we were doing some research for this particular fireside chat, we also saw that there is growth in Middle East and Africa as well in terms of offshoring, right? The trend is out there. We already know the trend is there in India and in APAC, but in Middle East as well, it's coming up in terms of offshoring. And all those trading conferences out there and the topics are a testament to that. I don't know specifically to you, while we know that at least about 40% of offshoring, not just in accounting, but in general outsourcing, India is definitely there on the forefront, right? It's been on the forefront serving clients across UK, US, Canada, and all of that because of the specialized services, like you mentioned, the passion and the inspiration that the global talent pool has and all of that.
Sure.
Now, specifically Samara, why did you choose India for Samara to have your offshoring back office there?
Yeah, no, great question. In truth, I guess it goes back to my history, I guess. So I was born and brought up in the UK, but my parents are of Indian origin, from Punjab. And as a child, I'd always been growing up, going to India every 2 or 3 years to see it. And I've seen India evolve right in front of my eyes, okay, changing rapidly year by year. And I kind of, as I mentioned earlier, it's the youth I see in India now, the skill talent of people in India. They're firstly, obviously the youth, they're young, they're smart, they're quick, their English speaking is good, there's hunger, there's drive, okay? And a lot of these things you think we have in the UK or the West, you don't actually see it, okay? So it's really important to kind of think that in India's that youth is a real powerful thing to use, okay? Now, the issues may be that you need to train them, you need to skill them up to develop them. But I think India is a perfect place for it. I think also geographically, time zone wise, India works pretty well. It works well for Europe. It works certainly well for East Coast USA, even West Coast to some extent, okay? If the hours and the setup is done correctly. I think people are very technology savvy in India. We know a lot of the software that's actually developed in India, like Zoho, for instance. Okay, so I think all of these things create a really great environment for doing offshoring, and I think those are the main things, and sometimes, and I think also political stability is an issue. Okay. India has strong ties to the US. We've seen a change in government. I know there'll still be in the US. I think there'll still be a very strong tie, even maybe stronger ties now between India and the US now, as an example. Okay, India has a strong relationship and tie with the UK. So there's a lot of history there. good and bad, okay, but there's a tie there, okay, and there's a big Asian or Indian population based in the UK, in the US, in Canada that will leverage that to that. So, for example, yesterday at Accountex here in Canada, I was surprised to see how many Indian accountants there are here. Okay, now most of them aren't offshoring or outsourcing yet. Okay, they're thinking about it, or maybe it will do it or not. But even though they have an Indian link, they're not actually doing it. Okay, so and therefore they'll have probably a bias towards India, like myself, okay, because they've got history, experience, and that type of thing as well there. So I think these are some of the key reasons why I chose India, and I haven't looked back, to be honest with you. My view is I'm double downing on India. We'll be investing significantly more over the next few years, and building a bigger team and developing the team further.
That's really nice to know, Arun. And I remember you mentioning about this as well, right? Indian tax regulation is one of the most comprehensive ones, and at the same time, you need to be really, yeah. So if our accountants and chartered accountants are experts in that, then it becomes slightly easier for them to adapt to the global regulatory.
Absolutely. I've looked at some of the Indian tax law information and stuff when we have to deal detail with our Indian subsidiary. And it's like, my goodness, how complex and difficult it is. Okay. And to me, and I've been in this space, 20 odd years. Okay. And I look at it, it's like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. And then I look at the UK, for example, and it's considerably simpler. Okay. So for any Indian CA worried about, okay, do I not know how to use, I don't know the Indian tax law, UK tax laws or US tax laws, you'll pick it up quickly. If you can deal with India, you can definitely deal with UK, US. It's much simpler.
Sure. Arun, when you mentioned about the talent and the young population out there in India, I'm sure there's going to be parity when it comes to the Asia Pacific belt and the Middle East and Africa belt as well, right? Because the population out there as well is, over the years, has been very inspiring and passionate about technology and specifically in the SaaS space. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yesterday I spoke to someone who he was saying that he was offshoring, okay, but he wasn't using India. He was actually offshoring to Nigeria. Okay, interesting.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and I'd never heard that before. And he said, well, the time zones work quite well for him. He was based in Western Canada. Okay, he says that the challenges that he has though are things like electricity supply, the parts he's dealing in Canada, in Nigeria. So what he's then now done, hey, he had to buy certain generators to keep the things going. Okay, he says the costs are very good, but training. So I think the offshoring opportunity isn't just limited to India. Okay, I think India is a vast pool and they could do really well out of this, but there are other geographies that could do equally as well in their own little way of doing it. And a great example could be people languages. Okay, so if you look at the Spanish-speaking world, okay, you look at North America, there's so much done in Spanish. Okay, you look at Spain, all these, and so somewhere like Argentina could be a great location.
Mexico as well.
Mexico as well, absolutely, to be doing offshoring and outsourcing, and the time zone suits. So it's not just India. India is my preference because that's what I know, that's what I'm doing. But it's a vast market and vast opportunities globally.
Very true. And you rightly pointed out about the opportunity for the other markets, because as we speak, yesterday there was one of the largest accounting conferences in South Africa by SAICA, the South African Association of Accountants there, right? Chartered accountants. And definitely there's a lot of buzz there about going global as well. And as we speak, we also had another accounting event where Zoho represented in Mexico as well. So probably we should do another podcast or this kind of a session, Arun, where we can deep dive into those markets as well, so that people from there can get their queries answered too.
I think one other thing to highlight, and this is, we talked about the English speaking world. We briefly spoke about the Spanish speaking world, but there are other parts of the world. Like a great example is I don't know the answer to this, but like Germany, massive market. Okay, who's serving them? Okay. Does that mean there's an opportunity to learn German in India, train people in German, and then do the offshoring? Potentially, okay? So there's all this language opportunity that comes or Italians or French, these types of things. So it's an exciting space. You just got to look at it sometimes from a different angle to differentiate yourself to get the business.
Absolutely. And one more point you'd mentioned about how borders are not anymore a barrier for us, right? Like you rightly pointed out, Zoho sits out of different remote locations across India, and we compete with businesses out there in the Silicon Valley, and we have employees based out of different geographies, serving in different time zones to clients. So definitely technology plays a part here. And as part of Zoho also, it's really nice for us to see us being a part of different accounting fraternity, the association-led events as well. It gives us a very nice feeling when we're able to empower them, that particular fraternity, with the technology that they want, or these kind of thought leadership sessions that they want, in terms
Sure.
of going global. So yeah, Arun, I think most of the questions that I wanted to ask you are almost done, but we
Sure.
have a few questions from the audience as well. But
Sure.
before that, do you have any? I know you've already given advice to the firms out here, but any specific interesting use case, or a scenario that you would want to pick up? It can be a humor, it can be a disaster from where you learned as well over the years from 2002 till now, because I'm sure you would have learned along the way, right? Because we get to become experts after a few years of learning and failing and all of that. So anything in particular that you want to highlight from your experience from 2002 till now? Any
Yes.
one?
Yeah, no. So I remember when we started out, there wasn't the cloud technology or anything like that available. So I remember having someone in my office in London, and they would get these documents in from clients, and this person was permanently hired. She was just there to scan the documents into a scanner, and then we'd have these massive scanned files, which we'd have to FTP, or file transfer protocol, over to India. Okay, and then a file would then be updated on QuickBooks and eventually sent back. And it was a very long and cumbersome process. Okay, but we were doing it. Now, fast forward to today, none of that has to happen. Okay, literally, a client sends an email or takes a photo of a receipt. It gets scanned into the ecosystem. It can be processed by someone sitting in India within seconds, or even automated to some extent using software if you wanted to. And a client sitting back in the UK can see the result on their screen, on their phone, how amazing these things have worked. Okay, so I think technology is a real enabler here, and I think it's really important to actually really kind of double down on the technology and learn more about the technology that's available out there. And there are various applications that you can link into and integrate with, and I think that's a really important aspect if people want to pursue this global space, because that can make your life a lot easier as well. So I think technology is one thing you need to really focus on. And I think not to dwell on it, but I think take the step, be bold, get out of your comfort zone, okay, and actually go and visit places, go and talk to people, go and reach people out there. Don't spam them, don't cold call them, don't do that type of thing. That's not going to win you any friends, okay? The way to do this is to do it on a professional level. Remember, you're trying to deal with professionals, so people, they have an expectation. So you need to be able to present yourself well, go to conferences, talk to people, make friends, build relationships, and that will build the trust. But I think the tip there is it's going to take time. Okay, it will take patience, but before you know it, you'll start building a network globally wherever you focus on, and that will be the impetus to doing. Now, what I'm saying also, don't stop your day job. Okay, if you're running a CA firm or something like that already, you still need the income. Still need to do that, but you'll start building up a profile. You'll still building up a knowledge. Okay, and then you'll start seeing opportunities of what they are, and it might not be initially what you thought that you were going to do. You might have thought, I'm going to be providing accounting or bookkeeping services, but it could be something completely randomly different that might actually emerge from this, because virtually there's so much that can be offshored and outsourced. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and he was now looking to do, he runs a CFO or virtual CFO service, and now he wants to get India to provide the whole back office for his virtual CFO service. So it's things like that. So and you might have the skill set sitting in your team in India who are strong communicators, all experienced CAs, and they would be perfect to do CFO services, for example. Okay, so and that's not the bottom line of work. That's kind of quite high end work, okay, and you can charge better rates and better fees for that as well. So I think the top tip is go for it in a nutshell. Okay, what are you waiting for? And if we can be there and part of the journey and help you for it, we'd be delighted to.
Spot on, Arun. Thank you so much. We're done with your side of questions, but there are questions from the audience as well. So before that, I just want to highlight a little bit about the event that's happening. So Arun's Samara Global Summit is happening in Delhi, focusing on the accounting fraternity. You'll be able to find more details on the link that we provide. If anybody here is interested, feel free to register. It's going to be an elaborate version of what we had today. Today is just like a tidbit of offshoring and outsourcing, right? But the event is going to be 2 full days of deep dive sessions into how you can outsource, why outsource, what are the opportunities that you have out there, who can help you out. And like Arun pointed out, I think he's going to deep dive into marketing as well, not just from the accounting side, but also how chartered accountants can market as well, right? So that's the event called Samara Global Summit. It's happening on the 14th and 15th of December in Leela in Delhi there for you. And you can use the QR code here if you'd like to register, or feel free to use the short link that we provided. If any of you have any specific questions in regards to this particular session or the event, feel free to drop us your email on the chat window and we'll be able to get in touch with you. So Arun, thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights. It was definitely inspiring, and I'm sure the listeners found it very useful. Some of the questions that have come are really interesting. For example, you spoke about how accounting might not be the only offshoring activity, right? So there was one question about how, is it just accounting? How do you determine that only accounting functions are best suited for offshoring, or what else are? For example, you mentioned about virtual CFO.
Yeah, so you pretty much anything that's sat at a desk can be offshore. So I'm liaising. I know this isn't probably the right forum, but I'm dealing with a law firm in the UK who's now doing legal services are being offshored, for example. Okay, so anything that's kind of knowledge based can be offshored. Marketing services, okay, digital marketing services. So but going back to the accounting space, I think it's the whole spectrum from the most basic to the most kind of senior kind of roles, and it could be CFO services, it could be controller services, you name it, it can be done. And I think don't limit yourself in that respect. And I think that therefore, if you go to these countries and start talking to people, you will actually start understanding what the problems are, and then you can get an idea. Okay, this is a solution I think we can provide. And that goes back to the point I raised earlier. That if you go down that niche, okay, that will really help you, because you will then build a knowledge base much better in a particular sector, and then you'll be more respected in that sector, and therefore you'll be more listened to, and hopefully then be able to get clients as well.
Very true. Arun, I think you covered a bit about this earlier, but there's a specific question from our audience: how to get opportunities for bookkeeping clients from USA to Indian CAs. He's been apparently trying this for the past 2 years, but not very successful. So he'd like to know how.
Yeah, I think, and I hear it. It's as I said, I don't know what he's done and how he's gone about doing it. Okay, but the methodology I approached earlier is about sharing knowledge. So, for instance, if he might be kind of specializing in a particular sector, okay, he can then perhaps build his knowledge using software like Zoho, okay, and he could create a YouTube channel, for instance, talking about how to do the bookkeeping on Zoho for a particular sector, as an example, okay. These are the things that you need to do. You need to kind of think outside of the box, be quite creative about it. If you're just trying to call people or email them saying, I can provide bookkeeping services for $10 an hour or $5 an hour, no one's going to be interested, okay? No one, seriously, okay? But if you're doing things differently and people are thinking, oh, okay, this is a unique way of doing it, and you're showing the benefits for coming to you, okay? So it could be cost saving, it could be automation, it could be efficiency driven. Suddenly people think, oh, okay, I like the idea of that. I'm going to reach out to you and talk to you. So I think this is all about marketing. It's not the accounting side of things. This is the marketing, how you position yourself. And people won't necessarily want to come to you because you're cheap, as I said to you earlier, they want to come to you because you're providing a solution to them in an efficient manner, in a friendly way.
Thank you, Arun. Mr. Anil, I hope that was helpful. If you still have any further details, Arun will be happy to spend time on that. Feel free to share your query on the chat with us or your email ID. We'll be happy to get in touch with you. In fact, like Arun mentioned, marketing is one of the key takeaways that chartered accountants will have as part of this event that Arun is going to host in Delhi as well. So, like he mentioned, that also is going to help you with opportunities. Another question is, we spoke about this as well, Arun. Is UAE a good opportunity? Is a question from Mr. Abhay Sharma.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think UAE is a good opportunity. Okay, again, there's a strong connection between the UAE and India. Okay, there's a large Indian diaspora there. People have moved there, working there, and again, India in the UAE is cloud technology being used quite extensively now. So I think that's another market you can certainly tap into. It's not a market I know particularly well, to be brutally honest with you myself, but I do know of other colleagues who are very active in that space. So yeah, I think yes, in a nutshell.
Perfect. Thank you, Arun. This is a very important question. I think most of us have, Arun. This is from Mr. Hariz Musa.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. How can we assure data security to our clients while they offshore?
So data security is, as you rightly said, it's very, very important. So firstly, you need to make sure that when you're hiring people, it's all part of the process of checking the backgrounds of people. Okay, so I'll give you an example. For our team members that join in, or actually anywhere, we do obviously get references. We then do background checks, criminal checks, everything, because the issue starts with who you're hiring at the first place. Then protecting the data with respect to the clients that we work on, we don't ask them to send any data to us. Okay, we have to access their servers. Okay, sitting in the US, Canada, UK, wherever it may be, based out of it from our systems in India. So it goes through a remote desktop, and they only share the information that we want to be shared. They want to be shared to us. Okay. In addition, we kind of obviously abide by various standards. So ISO 27001, I think there's SOC 2 here in America, GDPR in the UK, various things. So we need to make sure that we're complying with all of those kind of standards, because that gives the reassurance to clients as well that we're meeting standards. So I think all of those things play a part. And ultimately, it's also making sure that you're training your team and developing your team all the time, that they're always making sure that they're looking after the data, making sure they're not doing silly things or naughty things. And then also having people in place in the team or systems in place to make sure that these issues don't arise. And if they do arise, you address them promptly and then communicate accordingly to any regulators that need be.
Thank you. Thank you, Arun. There's one more question from Mr. Bhushan. Having registered entity in UK, so I guess he's having a registered entity in UK, how necessary it is for getting offshore practice going on for the UK market? This is from Mr.
It's not
Bhushan.
necessary. Honestly, I don't think it's not the top priority. You could set up a UK entity and then do it and operate it, and then you bill from the UK. But I know other competitors of mine, to be honest, that I know that they don't have a UK entity. It's their Indian entity that's billing and the contracts with the Indian entity. So I don't think that's the priority. The big priority is getting your marketing done and getting out there and talking to people.
Makes sense. We covered a little bit about this, Arun, but this is one more question. What role does technology and automation play in making offshoring more efficient and, of course, cost effective for accounting firms?
Oh, I think it's vital. Okay, it plays a massive part. I think increasingly the technology is evolving faster. So what the benefit to an offshoring firm is that historically you might need 3 people to do one job. Okay, but if technology is there, eventually it might just be one person to do that job. So the margins could be higher for an offshoring firm, and the delivery could be quicker using technology. So I think you have to, as I said earlier, you have to embrace the technology. I think that's key to the whole success in offshoring. Now, clients expect it, okay, and they're expecting you as a offshoring firm to provide that advice because you're doing it. Okay, they're expecting you. They might not have the ideas, but if you can provide a solution to them and say, we can use Zoho to do this, we can do X to do this, we can use Y to do that, they'll say, oh, okay, they know what they're doing. Okay, and before you know it, they're a client, so they're expecting that added value advice from you, and that could be the game changer for you to actually win the business in the first place.
Spot on there, Arun. Some of you who might have heard Zoho sessions will probably know this. The story today is accountants, chartered accountants, CPAs, if you will, they are all trusted advisors to businesses, right? Today, they are the ones who even suggest businesses what technology to use. At least the businesses seek help from them as to what tech stack to choose from. And you rightly pointed out that, Arun. Thank you for that question.
I think that's a good point. Just to add to this, actually, Cynthia,
Sure.
is that, and a great way to market yourself is that addressing that question earlier, that the question the guy was asking about bookkeeping services to the US. Well, rather than look at it that way, look at it from saying, well, what is the best tech stack for your kind of accounting for your firm? Okay. And then you go into a deep dive into what is the right tech stack and how it can work and how you can integrate it. And you create content and videos, things around it. And people then start thinking, oh, wow, he knows so much. If he's just sharing for free on YouTube, maybe I should just give him a call. He'll be the man who needs to do my bookkeeping. Do you see what I mean? That's of course. That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah. I mean, you got your first client with your organic content and education, and that's testament in itself. So, super. Okay, this is a long question, so give me some time to read. This is from Deep Israni. As a new business owner offering accounting services across different countries with varying tax and accounting systems, should I focus on marketing and acquiring clients first and then train my team based on the specific needs of those clients? Or should I prioritize training myself and my team on international tax and accounting systems before actively pursuing clients? What's the best approach for managing this balance in the early stages? Very deep and very good question.
Good question. I think there's an element of both. Okay, but if I'm as a man who's been experienced of doing this, the hardest part of this is marketing. Okay, so, and you don't know what you're going to find, what kind of clients you're going to get. So I would put my efforts into the marketing side of things. I think your existing team should be running your own show already and managing that, making sure that's running fine. And if you've got the resource in your time, is for you to actually focus on getting the clients, building that clients, doing the marketing side of things. So, of course, it's helpful for your team to know a little bit more about international accounting, that type of thing. But you might say, you might train them in Canadian accounting when you might end up actually getting UK clients. So then it's been a little bit of a pointless exercise. So I'd actually focus the efforts on the marketing side of things.
Got it. Thank you, Arun. Actually, we're 13 minutes past time, and it's nice to see how patient the folks are, and still they're asking us questions. So thank you so much for that. We'll go for one last question. And if you have still more questions, feel free to send us on chat. We'll be answering it via email. One last question for you, Arun. How do you determine which, so there is an accounting firm. How do they determine if they have to offshore or not? What is the criteria that they have to look into?
So the criteria they have to look into. Okay, so I think quite often or not, it comes back to their pain that they get to a point where they're struggling, okay, to find the resource, and they've been trying to use existing team members to do the work, but eventually they realize, like, you know what, it's a vicious circle, and the pain gets too much, okay, and they think, you know what, I've had enough of this. I need to actually do something different. And that's kind of how it happened for me. I thought I have just to do something different. Okay. And when I talk to other firm owners, they think exactly the same. I've had enough. The pain's too much. I need to address this. And that's when the opportunity comes for them to change and to go into this offshoring space and find an alternative to their pain points.
Spot on. Thank you. Thank you so much, Arun. We still have a lot more questions, but probably we can take that on email. And Arun is always active on social media. Feel free to connect with him and follow our social handle.
Sorry, Cindy, just interrupt. Do you mind if I just share my link on LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah, please do that. Please do that.
So I'll do that.
Yeah, please do.
Just please do link up on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share. And if you've got any questions, drop me a message. And if it's not me, one of my team can reach out and stuff. So,
yeah. In fact, I can request our team to share our handles as well, because we're going to be continuously talking about this. And if they have any questions, they can raise it on social, and probably Arun can jump in and answer
Sure.
that.
Absolutely.
So yes, we're 15 minutes past time. We've taken much more time than what we promised to the audience. But thank you so much to everyone, and especially you, Arun, for tuning in at 4:30 from Canada and sharing your insights. Definitely it was useful, at least for me, and I'm sure the listeners found it useful as well. Today we've spoken a lot about India, but maybe we'll continue this series and see about other markets as well in future. Um, and of course, all the listeners out there, don't forget to check out the event. If you are really interested in this and want to go global, then I think that's one of the best forums where you can, register yourself and come and attend that workshop as well. Um, it's all about exploring opportunities. Like Arun said, go for it, right? Don't hesitate, go for it. And it's okay to embrace failures. And we're always out there as partners. Arun and team like Samara, likes of Samara, there are going to be multiple accounting firms who can help you down the road. And like us, Zoho, there are technology firms out here who can help you with enabling you with the best technology partner, right? So just go for it. And we're always here to help. Once again, gratitude and thank you so much for all of you for registering your interest and joining this session. Thank you so much. Arun, any last thoughts?
Sure, yeah. Thanks. Firstly, a huge thank you, Cynthia, and to the team at Zoho for organising this, and really appreciate to be able to share my experience and my grey-haired experience at that. But one thing I just want to highlight, I think, the last we've seen the IT industry, as I said earlier, many years ago, enter India and grow to be this massive giant industry in India through the outsourcing and the whole of IT services. I think the accounting and finance space is on that journey already, but I really think the next 7 to 10 years is the opportunity. There's a window of opportunity now. So it's for those people who get into that window now are the ones that are going to really benefit, in my mind. Okay, if you leave it beyond that, there'll be other things that I'm sure that will come along, but this exciting time to grow is right here, right now. And I think that's where, for anyone who's even got an inkling of thinking, I want to do this, I want to get into this offshoring space, don't hesitate, just go for it. And we'll be there. Like Cynthia mentioned, Zoho can help, but we can help as well.
Like rightly said, Arun, do it when the iron is hot, right? I mean, the momentum is out there. There is a growth rate out there. So I think it's the right time for them to hop on. We might not be able to promise immediate results, but somewhere we have to start. We start today, and in the long run, they're going to see results for sure. So there's a sweet comment from Krishna Prasad. Please stay connected with young folks. I think the moment you mentioned gray hair, do stay in touch with them and provide insights. Arun,
absolutely, I will do. I'm more than happy to. I think, as I said earlier, I think the future are the young folks of India. Okay, and if I can provide some guidance to you guys to succeed, honestly, that's the most fulfilling thing out there, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And once you're back, probably we'll continue this, Arun. And Arun and I will be at the Global Summit next month. So I hope to see some of you there. Stay tuned to Zoho social channels and get connected with Arun as well. We'll come up with much more interesting topics in future for all of you. Thank you once again for tuning in today. Thank you.
I'm going to get a coffee now, so to wake me up.
Please.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
Take care. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.